This Vancouver Canucks prospect has been dominating in the OHL into the Memorial Cup, and this one Canucks players have underlining numbers that could be dominant going into next season and making him the dark horse on the Canucks. We'll get into this later on this episode. Before we start, I just want to say to thousands of you watching that aren't subscribed, if you're enjoying this Canucks content and you never want to miss another episode where we cover prospects, game breakdowns, trades, rumors, anything you can think of, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. We'll be here all season long giving you updates from around the Canucks. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Josh Bloom dominating juniors. Now, obviously, Josh Bloom is not a guy that a lot of Canucks fans know about, but he's in the Memorial Cup with the Spirits. He's dominating the tournament, having 3 points, which is 1 goal and 2 assists, of the team's total 18 goals across the round robin games into the semifinal games. And they're going into the Memorial Cup, which is going to be huge for his development and continue on the season he's having right now. Obviously, Josh Bloom is currently with the Spirit of the OHL in 34 games played, 17 goals, 23 assists for 40 points. He did play in the AHL for the Abbotsford Canucks, only registering 1 point before being sent down to the ECHL, where he registered only 2 points. He made his way back at the age of 20 into the OHL. In the playoffs in 17 games, he has 4 goals, 7 assists for 11 points. Josh Bloom is 20 years old, so he is a bit of an overager. I do think this is the last year he's eligible to play in the OHL. He is on a 2-year deal with the Canucks right now at $836,666 per year. He was a third-round draft pick in 2021, 95th overall. He's a left wing, standing at 6'2", 185 pounds, left-handed shot, and Bloom's development has been looking good. Yes, it is taking him a while. As we said, he's a late bloomer, if you want to say, at the age of 20, and just starting to dominate the OHL. But looking at his stats for his team going into the season in the OHL, in just 34 games played, 40 points, which sits at 10th on the team. The only player above him, Owen Beck, who is a Montreal Canadiens prospect, has 51 points in 32 games. But Bloom's points per games rank him above a lot of the players currently on the team. Yes, he didn't get the flashy 96 points like the top guy did for the Spirit, but Bloom alone has been firing at over a point per game, dominating the OHL, and he's showing some true value as a third-round pick, which is taking him a little later to do. But I'm seeing a lot of just stuff out of this guy. And what's your thoughts on him too, Griffin?
I think he's shown a lot of great growth. He's definitely put the team on his back for this Memorial Cup run. I don't know if they're going to be able to get past London, but he's going to have a great performance. He is averaging a point per game in that tournament. Been great to see how he's had the impact with that tournament as well as in the OHL playoffs. And like you said, he was averaging over a point per game in the regular season, and he only played 34 games out of the 68. And it's great to see how he can put up that much of production. It's great to see how he can maybe find his way into this Canucks roster or just have a season with Abbotsford like Shelov's had where it's a breakout season, then he just goes into the NHL and just dominates. It's going to be interesting to see where this kid takes his career. He has shown a lot of promise with the OHL and in the AHL developing with the Canucks. So I think it's going to be a long-term investment that eventually pays off for the Canucks. And when you see his productivity, it does bode well when you look at Vancouver needing more depth in those third and fourth lines.
Yeah, because the biggest thing is this guy did have a bit of experience in the AHL this year into the ECHL before being sent down. But this shows that the organization is willing to get him into games. Obviously, 14 total games in the AHL, 8 total in the ECHL, before playing 34 in the OHL. So there is a chance that Bloom, who is a former third-round pick, fights at training camp to get into the spot, to get into the team, with the Canucks being at the point now where they have a lot of UFAs. You can see 4 forwards are UFAs, 4 defensemen are UFAs, and 1 RFA defenseman. It's going to be a tight world where the cap is going to be on their backs. And just other than Bloom, Griffin, who do you see out of the Canucks prospects that might have a chance to fight for a roster spot?
I know we've touched on Jonathan Lekkerimäki a bunch on this channel. He's someone that you and I both would love to see in a Vancouver Canucks uniform sooner rather than later. We've talked about his impact on the power play and how good things happen when he's on the ice during those 2 minutes. And like we saw at Vancouver, they need to have more efficiency during those 2 minutes. We saw how that was the ultimate Achilles heel for them in the season and in the playoff run. So having someone like Jonathan Lekkerimäki in that spot would be great for them, as well as Archdeep Baines. He's been someone that we've been wanting to see hit Vancouver as well. I know you've been really high on him. We've talked about him a few times. So it would be nice to see those two guys, especially when you've seen guys like Linus Karlsson and Niels Alman, who they got their chance in the postseason this season and they didn't make the most of it. They showed some promise, but not enough to make a lasting impact. So I think it makes it easier for those guys and other Abbotsford prospects to make a push to be on that roster come playoff time or late in the season or just as injury fillers.
Yeah, because the big thing is, like I said, when you're looking at these UFAs, there's a lot of guys that will not be on the Canucks next season. So the biggest thing with this is just filling out this roster on some cheap contracts. As I said, Bloom's getting paid 1.6, split down the middle over 2 years, so 836,000 per year. So getting a guy like this in the lineup, a guy like Jonathan Lekkerimäki, who I absolutely love watching his game. I was up late, early in the mornings as well, watching him play in the SHL for the Abros HC. So seeing these guys have the chance to make the roster is going to be big. Obviously, you have guys like Tom Willander and D. Petey is another two guys that could make this roster as defensemen, as they are just kind of at the point where there's 5 guys that may not return. So it's going to be interesting to see the Canucks just how they break down next season, how they get some of these guys in. They have Manny Malhotra down in Abbotsford now to help develop these players to bring them up to the next level. But what's your guys' thoughts on Josh Bloom? Who do you guys want to see within the Canucks organization next year? Make the big team. Let us know down in the comments. But talking about a tight-knit roster and players that might make a big impact next year, it gets us into our next topic, which is Puis Suter breakout incoming. So obviously Puis Suter is 28 years old. He played with the Canucks this season in 67 games, played 14 goals, 15 assists for 29 points. Plus 17, was top 7 on the Canucks forwards. He was also top 38 among NHL forwards. He's on a 1-year deal at $1.6 million. The biggest thing with Puis Suter that a lot of people might not realize was his impact. Obviously, you have a guy that can win you faceoffs at 49%. You do wish these numbers would go up a tiny bit, but he played a lot of wing with JT Miller, guys like Boeser. He played with quite a few Canucks, and looking at advanced stats within this organization, he helps elevate their game. As I said, the $1.6 million is going to be a bargain contract for a guy that can have an impact going into next season. When you do look at him and you're looking at Corsi, for anyone that doesn't know, Corsi is just the percentage of goals for against goals expected against. With these numbers being higher, obviously, JT Miller with Suter had a Corsi of 59.67%. Boeser had a 57.27%. When you look at without, obviously the numbers jump up. 49 without, drops. 49 without for Boeser as well. The expected goals with Suter are at 80% for both of these players and drop to as low as 60% without. When you do look at some line mates that he didn't really play a lot of minutes with, guys like PD, Garland, Dakota Joshua, it's the same thing. You can pause this. I won't bore you too much on it. But just looking at these numbers jump with him on their lines, I think it's just a matter of time before we see a Puis Suter breakout. This is a guy, before getting to the Canucks, missed 4 total games in his NHL career. He was so healthy going in, in the span of the 2 seasons with Detroit. 82 games, 79 games. You see a couple games with Chicago as well. He did miss a couple games due to a groin injury with the Canucks. But other than this, he has been so healthy. And I think it's a matter of time before we see a full breakout. And what's your thoughts on Puis Suter, Griffin?
I think Puis Suter was a very productive part of Vancouver this season. We saw there how much of an impact he had with his first and second line mates when he was on the ice versus not off the ice. We saw really Dakota Joshua was the only player who didn't benefit from him being on the ice, but everyone else seemed to. He's shown a lot of great production with his plus-minus rating as well. It shows that when he's on the ice, good things happen and he creates opportunities. He might not be scoring a bunch, but he's getting opportunities for players like Boeser, Miller, Garland, Joshua, and Pettersson, and for all of them to be in a position to succeed and rack up the points. He's not going to be the goal scoring guy or the assist guy, but he'll be a good setup guy. And in a season where they have so many UFAs to try and bring back, you have a guy like Lindholm who might be asking too much. So if he is that ultimate replacement for Lindholm, it's not a bad replacement. Yes, Lindholm did show a lot of efficiency in the playoffs and later in the season. But if you have Suter, where he has shown that he can make good things happen on the ice, especially being that solid second and third line center, where they need more depth on the third and fourth line. So if you have him taking care of at least half of the third and fourth line problems, that's not a bad resolution to have, because like we've said, good things are going to happen when he's out there.
Yeah, that's the big thing is you don't want too many contracts of guys like McKay, for example, getting paid over $4 million in the bottom six. So having a guy like Suter making $1.6 million be able to impact not only the lines but everyone around him is going to be a sneaky thing for the Canucks heading into the season. I think we could see Suter maybe score 20 goals at some point, especially if he's given the right line mates. But what's your guys' thoughts on Puis Suter? What do you think he can do next year? What are you predicting him to put up points-wise? Do you think he'll have a big impact? Let us know down in the comments. But speaking of comments, we'll get in everyone's favorite topic, which is comment of the day. And the comment today comes from Murray Reed. He says, how about New Zealand? This was when we were talking about just subscriber counts from all over the globe. It's crazy to see people watching from New Zealand, Great Britain, Hong Kong, everywhere around the world. People watch Canucks Digest, and it's just awesome that you guys are enjoying this content. Shout out to everyone in New Zealand. Shout out everyone watching this video. If you haven't went down and left a comment, you could be featured on the next episode, so make sure to do that. While you're down there, share this with your friends, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. We'll be back giving you breakdowns on prospects, rumors, anything you can think of on the Canucks. So if you're enjoying the content, just hit the subscribe button. It's completely free. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Griffin. Take care.